So finally, after what has felt like almost a lifetime, the van conversion is complete and it's time to take this thing out for a little trip. Now, ever since I became focused on trying to keep my conversions lightweight, the last thing I do before I pull the van into the shop is take it down to the local scales to get weighed, and the first thing I do once the van is finished is take it over to the scales again and see what damage has been done. So this time around, I actually finished sewing the mattress cover for this van after 2 in the morning, slept a few hours, and then started prepping to get the van out the shop doors and onto the road. I was pretty tired this day, so I gotta admit my enthusiasm wasn't at an all-time high. Now before I get into the details of how much exactly this van weighed, I'd just like to give my opinion on conversion weights and the gross vehicle weight rating, or GVWR, which is a number that the manufacturer has decided is a safe maximum weight for your vehicle. Now, watching other people's videos about the GVWR and their conversion weight, I feel like they treat it like this hard boundary, where if you are just barely underneath this magic threshold, everything is going to be rainbows and unicorns. However, I think things are much more of a spectrum. And just like kind of human body weight or the BMI, I would consider the GVWR not the point at which your vehicle is just a little bit overweight. I would kind of consider it the point at which it is like morbidly obese. You know, speaking in generalities, a human being that is overweight for a long time is more likely to have heart issues and joint problems. Same things in a van. A van close to the GVWR will need more intervention in the form of repairs, replacing and upgrading parts. And if your ambitions in life as a human being are to perform athletically, you know, being at a healthy weight makes that much, much easier. So just the same thing with a van. If all you hope to do is bumble about from paved parking lot to paved parking lot, then van weight can kind of be a forgotten concern. But if your hopes are to take it up into the mountains, into some really remote areas, having a healthy van weight makes that a lot easier. So that's how I view this. Is my van close to the GVWR? No, it's actually nowhere close. But I understand this gradient and the resulting performance loss the closer you get to it. So all I can say is I was pretty disappointed in the weight of this conversion. All right, you're gonna look.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, you know what the one is before it. Give me the readout. That's sad. Oh yeah, it's probably 1,200 pounds.
Let me see. I
can
don't know.
do the mental math. Let me see the number. Oh yeah, 1220.
1220. That's good.
I mean 1120. 1120.
Wait, 11. Wait, that's even better.
Oh, I don't want to be under 1,000. Can I actually see that one? Yeah, all 1220. Fuck.
1220 or 1120?
1120. I'm an idiot. 1120, but fuck, that sucks.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's that heavy. 860 in the rear, 260 in the front. Yeah, it sucks. Okay. You can stop filming. I'm not very happy about that. Yep, 1,120 pounds was the final conversion weight for this van. And I had really hoped it would be less. You know, I think with everything in this van, all the components and all the amenities, I think it's still a pretty damn light build, but I really had expected that I could build something just a little bit lighter. Are there lighter vans out there with these same amenities? Well, there is at least one, and that's the ProMaster in my driveway, our old van. It has more or less the same amenities. A few things have been improved in this new one, but it managed to weigh about 200 pounds less. At the end of the video, I'll try to theorize some of the differences and where those came from. So this is a 2022 4x4 Sprinter, 144-inch wheelbase, the low top, and the GVWR for this van is actually 9,050 pounds. So with that finishing weight of 6,420 pounds, we've actually got over 2,600 pounds to spare. And some of the mandatory cargo in this van obviously is 20 gallons of water when the water tank is full. I needed 16 gallons of diesel to fill up right after this weight was taken. Then there's my girlfriend and I, and then there's our dog. But even all of that together, which is about 600 pounds, still leaves us about 2,000 pounds of cargo we could be carrying. Now looking at each axle, the front axle gained 260 pounds, going from 3,180 pounds to 3,440 pounds. And the rear axle gained 860 pounds, going from 2,120 to 2,980 pounds. The axle limits are also shown on the screen here, so I've got no worries about those. I'm far, far away from either of those respectively. And then one critical thing I'd like to touch on before we actually get into exactly the specifics of the weight is how much height was essentially lost from the weight in this van. Now, I think when you see some really heavy conversions cruising down the highway, you often see them, they look kind of raked out like this because there's just so much cargo weighing down the back axle. So I kind of wanted to understand with this van build, how much height have I lost? So looking at this table here, you can see basically the before and after numbers. Just a quick caveat, the before numbers were taken in the shop, the after numbers were taken in the driveway. I don't think my driveway is quite as flat, so it may have just caused the suspension to flex a little. But I think the take-home message here is with about 260 pounds gained in the front axle, the front went down about a ½ inch. And on the rear axle, gaining over 800 pounds, we lost maybe about 1.25 inches in height. All right, so back to the specifics of how much the van conversion weighed. Now, I weigh my vans in what would maybe from like a backpacker's perspective be called your base weight. It is essentially everything in the van that's gonna always be there. So all the furniture, all the infrastructure, things like the mattress, but none of the consumables, which would be like water, food, things like that I don't include in the conversion weight. These things fluctuate, how much you take on each trip. So I just kind of like to understand everything that is kind of hard built and installed into the van. I like to understand how much that weighs. Now this van, it does have a couple little remaining projects I got to get done that will probably add about another 10 pounds to this van. It's a couple things I want to kind of tinker with over the next couple months. And then there's always the question of diesel. The gas station that I get these vans weighed at probably burns about a ½ gallon of diesel to get there and back. And when I'm like testing the heater in the shop, I probably burn another ½ gallon of diesel testing it out. So you could also dock me like 8 more pounds for probably the diesel used to get there and back. But anyways, that's just my preference on how to weigh my vans. I think it just takes out a lot of the ambiguity of like how much water was in the tank, maybe how much propane if you've got propane in your system. This is just everything that is hard built into the van, and that's what I'm interested in understanding, how much it weighs. But with that, since we are just taking these 2 before and after numbers, I also got to point out that there are some things I actually removed from the van in the course of this build. Now the big thing here is I removed the factory floor. It weighed about 85 pounds and the floor I replaced it with was actually almost 20 pounds lighter. So I've actually saved weight on the floor. And then there's things like, the sheet metal you cut out. There was about 20 pounds of sheet metal I removed from this van. So for like the holes for the windows and the ceiling fan. So all these kind of removables, as I consider them, actually added up to about 110 pounds. So when we get into this kind of piece by piece breakdown of how much the van conversion weighed, although the difference from start to finish is 1,120 pounds, all the items I'm going to list are going to add up to 1,230 pounds to account for those things that I've removed. Now this differential weight thing, that's something I like to keep track of. Nowadays it's getting a little more difficult to make that predictable. Some vans actually don't come with a floor. As you'll see, if your van came with swivels, that's like a big weight savings that you could technically consider not part of your conversion. But if you got a van without swivels, like I did because they were back ordered at the time, then I kind of end up adding that to, stuff that's my responsibility that I've added to the van. Well, speaking of obesity, I think a good way to present this data would be to use a pie graph. And let's get started. Up first, I've got a category that essentially is 25% of my entire build. And that is just made up of 4 individual items here. They account for 313 pounds of the build. And first up, the heaviest single thing in my van, making up almost 10% of the entire conversion weight, is my 560 amp hour lithium battery pack. Now this does include the BMS and the enclosure, but that is a whopping 113 pounds alone in battery. Next up is my fridge. 5.77% is made up of my 130 liter Vitrifrigo fridge. Next up, I've got my 2 swivels. Almost 5% of the van weight is those 2 swivels up front. And then again, weighing 71 pounds is my solar array on the roof. I've got 3 200 watt panels for a total of 600 watts, and that makes up 5.73% of my complete conversion weight. Well, after that first 25% taken up there, I got about 16% towards basically everything involving how I covered my floor, my walls, and my ceiling. First up, as I said, I removed the factory floor, which weighed 85 pounds. but the floor I ended up putting back in there was over 62 pounds, or about 5% of the conversion weight. My insulation is about 30 pounds in Thinsulate, and then it was about 11 pounds for the ceiling foam, as well as the fabric over the top of it and the little rib covers that I made. Then I've got about 60 pounds total of windows, which is right about 5% combined. 30 pounds of that is 2 small windows, and then the other 30 pounds is the larger window and the sliding door. And then we get into kind of the wall panels. My heaviest wall panel was actually the backsplash that goes behind my kitchen at 13 pounds, or right about 1% of the van conversion. Then I've got 9 pounds for the large panel above my sofa, 6 pounds for the small panel behind my sofa, and then about 6 more pounds for the sliding door panel and then the small panels in my cargo area. All right, after that, we keep on going. Our next category, which is 22%, is basically furniture and all the stuff you see built in the van. Now my complete kitchen, including this curved cabinet by the door, the drawers, the drawer fronts, the whole thing, my whole kitchen is 65 pounds, or again, over 5% of the complete conversion. On top of that, at 3.5% of the total weight is a 43-pound countertop. Coming across to the other side of the van, my complete passenger side cabinet that houses my fridge, parts of my air conditioner, and includes all the drawers at the bottom, the drawer fronts and everything, is over 72 pounds. Almost 6% of my van conversion is this large cabinet here. Coming in at 21 pounds is the electrical cabinet that is housed below my bed. It houses most of my electrical components, as well as supports the bed. Then the actual futon bed system is 43 pounds. Then I've just got a couple more small things. The sliding doors that separate my cargo area are about 8 pounds. And then coming in at 1.7% is 21 pounds of these ceiling light bars that house my lights, as well as my speakers and some other functions over on the driver's side. I should have prepared with more milk. Okay, so after furniture, we've essentially got kind of a bunch of smaller plumbing and electrical components. Those actually take up about 9%. So we'll keep this rolling. I should probably leave these crumbs here, it would help me. The biggest thing in this category far and away is my Victron Multiplus, which comes in at just under 50 pounds, or about 4% of the conversion weight. My other electrical components, like the charge controller, the DC to DC converter, are right about 1% of the build. And then my stereo system, which includes the stereo, 4 speakers, and a small subwoofer, is about 20 pounds. On the plumbing side, my water tank, my 20-gallon over-the-wheel well water tank, is about 20 pounds, or 1.6%. My tiny little gray water tank is quite negligible at 3 pounds. And then my foot and electric water pumps in here are about 5 pounds. This is not my brightest idea. After that, we've got a 9% more, which is basically having to do with amenities and appliances. So we can cleave that off really quick here. About, what did I say, 9%? 7% has to do with amenities and appliances. The big thing here obviously is my Cruise and Comfort VES Classic air conditioner. It's 55 pounds, just under 5%. And then some other small things are like the S-bar heater and the external metal case came out to 14 pounds. My 2-burner induction stove is 13 pounds. And then my max fan, ceiling fan, is right around 10 pounds. All right, coming out of that, we've just got one more tiny little category here. That's 3.5%. and that is kind of miscellaneous items. One would be the mattress. It's actually 26 pounds for a 3-inch foam mattress that I've made, including the cover. And then I've got a safe kind of lock box that I installed that's 18 pounds. And then after all that, that really just leaves about 200 pounds or 16.5% that I actually did not account for in my spreadsheet. Now, there are several things while I was building the van that after I had installed them, I did realize I actually forgot to weigh them. First up, the rear door upper panels that I made. I'm going to estimate that these were about 20 pounds. Then I forgot to weigh my step when I installed it, my retractable amp research step. From what I read online, that's probably about 30 pounds total. And I forgot to weigh this rear ceiling panel, which is about 5 pounds. It's really light and thin, but I did forget to weigh it. My main wiring panel that has my breakers, my central switch and all, I forgot to weigh that as well. I think it's about 15 pounds, and I thought I had written this down somewhere, but I can't find it. Then after I sewed all my curtains, the divider curtain, which has insulation in it, does weigh something, along with the window curtains, maybe 10 more pounds. And then early on in the build, I was just a little too excited. I forgot to weigh my air compressor system under the hood, and I forgot to weigh my leveling blocks that I had mounted underneath. I think both those items together maybe come out to about 30 pounds. All right, I had to do this. There's no way I was going to try it again. So if we sum all those up together, that's 110 pounds. And then that last 100 pounds, there are several things I purposely just don't try to weigh anymore because it just eats up too much time. The first and obvious one is fasteners. I don't weigh all the bolts and I don't weigh all the riv nuts. But honestly, there's well over 100 riv nuts and bolts in this van. That does add up. As to how much, I'm not really sure, but it is a part of this weight. Then there's the wiring. With a 3000 volt amp inverter, a 560 amp hour lithium battery pack, there's quite a bit of large gauge cabling in this van. But even more so, there's just a ton of small gauge being run all over. I'm not exactly sure how much all this wiring weighs, but it does obviously need to be accounted as part of this missing 100 pounds. And then there's the plumbing parts. In this van, it is a pretty simple water system. There's not that much tubing, but along with the spray off station, there are some valves, there's quite a few fittings, there's the heat tape to keep it from freezing. All of that does add up, so I'm sure that the plumbing parts, if I counted them all up together, wouldn't be completely negligible. Okay, so just to quickly sum up this chart that I've put together here, this chart is kind of a summarized version of what is honestly over 100 individual items that I've got in a spreadsheet to try to weigh everything that I did put in it, although as I did say, I did forget a few things. Now, if we take those categories that I had laid out and take those opening 4 items that, represented a quarter of the weight of this conversion, and we actually put them into the categories that they belong in, we can kind of get a final understanding of where this weight comes from. So 16% is all those wall, floor, and ceiling coverings, 22% is all our furniture. 22% is also the entire electrical system. Plumbing parts are fairly negligible. And then we've got 13% for those amenities and appliances I had said. 8% is kind of the random stuff like the lockbox, the mattress, and the swivels. And then we still have that remaining 200 pounds or 16% that I did not account for when I was taking all my weights. So circling back to the start of this video, why do I think it weighed 200 more pounds than the ProMaster? Well, there's several things in this van that are just a little better than the ProMaster. I've got 200 more watts of solar. I've got 160 more amp hours of battery capacity. But then the ProMaster, it didn't come with a floor, so I didn't get that 85-pound bonus. So I think what it really comes down to is this Sprinter build just feels like it has a lot more furniture in it. The ProMaster, the bed, it was just a big foam core panel. That's a very kind of lightweight, large object to put in that eats up a lot of the van space. Well, in this van, I feel like I just have way more drawers, way more storage space, and I think all that furniture, as I said, that was 273 pounds or 22% of this build out. That is, I think, where a lot of that extra weight came from. And then coming back to my 1,000-pound goal, when I look at this kind of spread of how it all kind of shook out, I don't know if there's any real way that I could save 120 pounds. Because I had told myself if I was just a little over, I had some small ideas on how I could go back and maybe try to cut that weight, because it would have been pretty nice to be able to claim that it was under 1,000 pounds. But 120 pounds, that's a lot of weight. Things I could do is remove some functions, but I can't really keep the same functions and shave that much weight. So it's something I'm just going to have to live with. You know, it's a good learning experience that there's only so much you can pack into a van and keep the weight as low as I had hoped it would be. Anyways, I hope you learned something with this. Trying to weigh all these things as building the van can be a headache at times. But you know, looking back on it now, it's really nice to have what I kind of think is one of the most comprehensive, like realistic weight breakdowns that I've seen done for a van conversion. So as always, thanks so much for watching, guys, and yeah, thank you so much.